Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Happy Saturday, everyone. My name is Mukelabai Mukelabai, and this is ZBTR TV back again here with another episode of Conversations with Mukelabai. I'm excited to be joining you all today on this weekend. I'd like to thank Pastor Nathan again for this ability to be on ZBTR TV. Of course, as you've known, the purpose of this show is to talk to young people who are making a difference in Zambia. And we have today a special young person, Mukelabai Mukelabai Jr., who is our special guest, and let's welcome him to the show. Muke, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you doing, Mohambi?
I'm doing well. It is good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'd like to wish you a happy belated birthday. He's entered the 20s. I turned 21 next month, so I guess some advice I can give you is that I don't know, enjoy your 20s. I don't know. I mean, I'm only 20, so I guess can I really say that? But anyway, your 20s are going to be
No, you
fun.
can say that. You can say that.
Make sure it's productive. So Muke, let me
Yeah.
just give a brief bio of you, and then we'll begin our conversation. So you are a dedicated young leader who is building, who is a champion for sustainable development, and you are advocating on not only local levels, regional levels, but you're also advocating on international levels. So I guess my first question is, tell me what inspired you to become a champion for youth development and sustainable development. Sort of tell me your journey. What has led you to these spaces? What has led you to accomplish these things at such a young age?
So, firstly, I feel like everyone is born a leader because everyone can influence somebody in some way, be it a negative or positive way. So, when I was young, I was someone who was very motivated. I was not an average kid. I always wanted more. I always wanted to see better, people living in better conditions. So, when I see someone suffering or someone in poverty, I would really feel bad. I'm like, what's causing this? What's causing this to happen? So, climate change, all these issues. So, when I was growing, that passion started coming up. I have interest in current affairs and all some of these things that are happening around. So then fast track, I do grade 8 and grade 9, then that's where it all begins. I start building my confidence. I start joining student council. I do some poetry club. press clubs. So from there, I'm busy building my foundation. But I used to lag around with doubt and everything. But I was like, I really have to build my confidence. I think what really drives me is trying to see a better Zambia, a better Africa, and a better world. Because when we as young people, when we harness our potential, we can really do more with that. So always desiring more, always wanting more growth, more opportunities. That opens your minds to see what's around and what potential can I tap in. So me wanting to be better, say good things around, that's something that really pushes me each and every day. And each person's story motivates me because I learn from people. Advice comes from anyone. So I learn from people each and every day. Their stories inspire me. The business people in Lusaka, their resilience to keep going each and every day to pursue that's what they want. That really motivates me. So on an issue of sustainability, it's where it's came around. Okay, I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about climate action. I'm passionate about seeing young people in these spaces. So when I joined student council, because I formed the first student council at my school in grade 12, that's where the foundation started. Yeah, and I was deputy head boy at that time. So now I was like, how do I engage my fellow young people, my fellow students to be part of decision making with the school authorities, with the school bodies? So we would used to invite so many organizations to come to our school so that we can give ourselves the opportunity so that we can create a platform that allows us as young people to thrive. So what's really inspires me and drives me is seeing change, being a catalyst for bold action and defying the odds and challenging the status quo. Because I believe time for your youth is time to invest in yourself and time to do greater things. Yeah, I hope that answers your
Right there.
question.
I like that. See, I think we've heard again from another future president. So we're very lucky here because we're hearing from future leaders. I like what you said. And just for background context, he and I connected on LinkedIn, I think, at the beginning of the year, and we've
Yeah,
been
on
having
LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn. So they're number one, talk about the power of social media. But we didn't. I wish we had asked you for a picture. It's my fault. But I want you to share when you were at the youth in Davao when you saw the president. Sort of tell us how was that experience. You talked about the importance of laying a foundation. I'm sure that was a very significant moment in your young professional career. So can you talk about what is the youth in Davao and
Yeah.
what was your role in attending there and having an audience with the president?
Yeah, and someone who was organizing the youth endeavor, because I was one of the youth that were privileged to organize the youth endeavor. So the youth endeavor brings young people all around the country to give them a platform to engage with policymakers, decision makers, and shape the future that we want to see. So seeing a president who's committed to see young people thrive, I think it was a good environment for me, a lot of learning, because I learned a lot from his speech and seeing that we have a leader who wants to see young people thrive. But now that also challenges us as young people, because Zambians' youngest majority is under 25. So us
Hmm.
being young, that means there's a responsibility and role that we have to play. We have to hold our leaders accountable when systems are not working for us. It's we as young people to hold them accountable. So the endeavor more like creates a platform where young people come on board, not just sit, not because when we talk about inclusion is shared leadership. It's not just me, I need to be part of the solution or be part of like the team co-creating the solutions. So me being at the youth endeavor, that was really, I think, game changing. The fact that I get to organize, I'm getting into the role and I see the stress and challenges that's really there in organizing such an event. And we bring the youthful perspective, our vibrancy, our innovation, our creativity. We bring it to the table to say, our leaders, we need you to hear us. We don't just want you to give us a seat, but you have to enable us, empower us, and also trust us. So, for the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Arts and the government of the Republic of Zambia, allowing us young people to be part of the team organizing the youth endeavor, it shows that there is a role that we also have to play. We just tell them this is what we want to see, and we want to see it happen, giving us the responsibility to say we can also take charge, we can also lead, and we can also champion change. So it was really a game changer
I like that. And so that took place, was it at Mulungushi Conference Center?
at Mulungushi Conference
Yes.
Center.
Was it held there?
Yeah, it was held there. It was a 2-day event. So what happens with the youth Indaba? We have a youth week period where we do like a launch, where the launch happened at Ispak Piazza, where young people get to dance, do some acrobatics, interact with few organizations, that youth-led organizations that are exhibiting there. So we start with the launch to kickstart the vibrancy of the youth in Davao. We get to have like town hall meetings where people get to learn, because I think this year we're talking about mental health,
Yeah.
substance abuse. So it starts building from like that until the entrepreneurship fair where we showcase innovative of young people. Then lastly, we have the commemoration in Mungo for Youth Day. Then we have the National Youth Indaba, where we bring all the young change makers of Zambia, the passionate leaders in one space, interacting with the president. They get to ask questions to the president because not most people get to have
Yeah.
that opportunity.
That is amazing. So that's what you do on the local level, but on the regional level, on the Zambian level. But I also want to talk about the work that you do on the international level, because recently, I believe a few months ago, you were actually in Livingston and you were interfacing with diplomats, but that was on behalf of the UN, and you do work with a major group for children and youth, which is an auxiliary of the United Nations. So that's something also that I'm also a part of. So talk about your how you got involved with the UN. You were also, I believe, at the UNICEF in Zambia. So talk about how you're involved with international organizations in Zambia. How you got, how you got your how you were able to, go into these networks and some of the work that you do within them. Can you hear me?
Okay, great question. Okay, yeah, you really did your homework. Okay, nice. So I think firstly, the first important thing, because there's no formula in starting advocacy. There is no formula in starting your advocacy journey or diplomacy. So most of the times I always wanted to, I would see these summits happening, I would see presidents coming to Zambia. I was like, how do I get to be part of the decision making? How do I get to be part with these leaders? So what I'll always do when I see an event coming up, I'll send an email to those guys. Oh, I'm interested in this. Can I volunteer? I have these
Mm,
skills and I have these things. So because I engage with them and I ask, they'll definitely give me a platform because there are not so many young people that will like reach out in their inbox to say, oh, this is coming. How can I be part of it? So with that really made me to see how do I now lay a foundation. So I attended my first conference, which was like because I finished high school in 2022, which was like the SDG, the African SDG Summit. So with that, I didn't even know what SDGs were. So I get
mhm.
into that room. I'm busy saying, oh, no poverty, zero hunger, climate action. In my mind, I'm like, what's this? And I see young people passionately talking about sustainability, talking about the African Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want with this passion. And I see a lot of vibrancy, the energy. I see diplomats. In my mind, I'm like, how do I get to be part of that panel? How do I get to sit on that table? So what do? I start upskilling my skills. So I've done a diploma in business intelligence, business communications, governing sustainable finance. Then I start doing a lot of certifications of international programs in so many different things. So with that,
Mm.
now I'm creating value and I'm creating credibility. And now also networking is a skill.
Yes.
Now, because like when I meet a minister, when I meet a president, how do I start to engage with these people? So I learned I did a course in networking. I'll watch YouTube videos, how to speak confidently, how to speak eloquently. So with that, I'm adding to my skills and I'm increasing my value. So then fast forward, because like really engaging with the United Nations, it's not very easy because
Yeah.
it's not just today I can wake up to say, I'm going to start working with the United Nations. So I did my research, then I saw there is a United Nations major group for children and youth. So for me, when I saw that is how are Zambian youths participating into these forums? How are African youths being engaged? And luckily, that's when people were talking the conversation about the Summit for the Future. So then I started attending these online webinars, online meetings, and there I would definitely introduce myself. Oh, I'm Mukelabai, I'm hostess. This is what I do. I'm championing young people. These are the initiatives that I'm doing. So with that now, I'm busy creating a network with people. And with the skills that I have, I'm like, oh, I heard there's this consultation that's coming up. How can I offer my skills to make sure that it succeeds? So with me doing that, because with me now, it's like I'm laying the foundation for what I want.
Yes.
I was not just waiting. I'll knock on the doors. UN, how do I get to engage? I'll see the IOM. I'll start checking the programs that they really have. And I saw a UNICEF program at the Italian embassy. They did an advocacy training. That's how I got to participate into that. Then I made my networking so good to see people want value. People want to see value. So even when you're networking, you are marketing yourself, because the first thing that you market is yourself. You are a brand, and branding is a leadership requirement. So for me stepping in as a person, people will think this person is not qualified, this youth is not qualified, all those things, they'll underestimate you. So when I was getting my diploma programs, I was juggling so many things. I was doing so many programs. With that, I'm adding credibility. So then, Summit for the Future, I say, how do I engage into policy? And lucky, I started engaging from there. I started volunteering with UNICEF as a UNICEF youth reporter. I start adding value, and I start volunteering with a lot of organizations. So what really happens, because I believe in excellence. In everything that you do, pursue excellence. So if they give me a task, I will make sure that I be so good at it. I would want them to remember, oh, there's this thing that's happening. Mukelabai can do it better. Because when young people were networking, they just go, I want a job, I want this. For me, it's like, oh, I've done my research. There's this that's happening, but how do we get to engage African youths? How do we make sure that African youths are given a platform? How do we engage youth in decision making? Not just how do we do shared leadership? So me asking those questions, and also ask the right questions in the right rooms. Always speak up. When you're in a room of opportunities, make sure to speak up. Because when I'm attending a summit, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for other young people. Then I started running my own initiatives. So with the student council, that's something that was really massive in school. So because we saw a lot of students really having a passion to contribute to national matters, contribute to the environment, and also participate in the democracy. So there were so many opportunities that were coming. So, and it was laying the foundation. The Eco Youth Initiative, where we're talking about championing climate action, championing innovation and sustainability, social entrepreneurship. So with that now, because for me, your work has to speak for you. The work that you do has to speak for you. Because I'm not really a social media person, but because I asked the right questions, I entered the right rooms, positioning. So the way you position yourself is very important as a young person. Because for me, okay, I've joined UNMGCY, but I really want to engage with the UN. I really want to engage with organizations. How do I get to it? So I'll volunteer on so many programs and so many projects. And with that, I'm building my skills and I'm building my credibility. And the way you market yourself is something that's really important. Be confident. That's something because I make sure that my confidence is always, it's always top notch. I will make sure that my confidence is there. So when I enter a room, know the people that you want to speak to, know the people you want to speak with, and know how you're going to market yourself. What will make them want to buy into your vision? So with that, there's not like really formula. So with that, I started finding myself into these spaces, UN Tourism, UNICEF, UNDP. I started finding myself in some of these spaces. And me being part of the UNMGCY, I really learned a lot to see how are young people in other countries doing it. Because I bet you I'll tell you, like, most African youth, we don't really engage in these systems, in these frameworks. But when you see like other countries, they're doing it. But what's making us fail? So that's now started shaping me. when I see an event, I'll say, how do I contribute? I'll send my CV, I'll attach my CV to the email, I'll attach my work and everything that I have done to see. This is how I'm going to contribute. And for me, it was always, how can youth be involved? And you find that they didn't even think about having youth at maybe there's forum or something that was happening. And through that, I was busy laying the foundation.
I
Hope
really
that
like
answers
what
your
you
question.
said. Yes, it does. I think it was such an excellent response because I was like, wow, I gotta start thinking about the things that I'm doing. Like, is this how am I positioning myself? I like what you said about how you would volunteer for, these positions, because I think as young people, as young, ambitious people who want to make a difference, I think oftentimes we're so focused on the end result. And I was just thinking about this myself, just a few days ago. We don't really admire, the process. Every great leader, didn't come from the top. For example, Barack Obama had to work his way up. KK had to work his way up. Mandela had to
Definitely,
work his way up.
definitely.
I think for us as young people who want to be great people, we have to recognize that there is a process, and we have to recognize that it takes levels, that you just can't get to the end result. It takes a process, and that's something that I'm learning, and I think you
Definitely.
articulated it very
Yeah.
well, that you have to have a process.
Yeah.
And because of your process, you've been able to step into these rooms. So talk about that. How was Livingston? What did you learn? Who did you meet? I saw it on your WhatsApp. It seemed like you're having fun. Hey, Lifey.
Life in fire. So I think, yeah, before I answer this question, I think really, because we as young people, growth is uncomfortable.
Yes.
You struggle with doubt, you struggle with consistency. But for you to get where you want to be, you really have to follow what you want. You really have to put in the discipline. You have to be excellent with what you are doing. But for young people, we want shortcuts. Because even people will be like,
Yes.
how are you finding yourself in these rooms? How are you finding yourself at this? How are you contributing to projects? It just didn't start from there. I started from somewhere. And like as you keep going, it's growth and growth. That
Yeah.
days I would ask people to say, how can I be part of that event? Now it's like, oh, Mukelabai, how we want you to be part or contribute to this event. And make sure that you network, because you don't know who's going to help you. You don't know who's going to hear your story. So Livingstone, so tourism, because I'm the co-founder of the Eco Youth Initiative. So the Eco Youth Initiative, what we are doing with this initiative is like bringing young people to champion climate action and also learn about social entrepreneurship and innovation. We tell my fellow young people, go into
Uh-oh. We're having some technical difficulty. That's how you know it's so good when the computer is not cooperating. So we will take a break here, and we will invite Muke back.
Zambia with network.
All right, we're back.
Oh, hi, Mohambi. You can get me.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me?
I went off for a while. My network, Zambian
No,
network. I
yeah,
think
I know.
we are
No,
facing a network issue.
yeah, and see, that's something that we also have
Hope you
to.
can get me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you get me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you loud and clear.
Our net. Okay, yeah. So to answer your question, because I had a network issue. So
No problem.
yeah, but I can get you clearly. Your volume is a bit down.
Okay, can you hear me? Is it better? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah. So Livingston was really interesting, and tourism has so many opportunities. So me founding that initiative, because again, is how do we engage young people in ecotourism, tourism that's sustainable. So Livingston has really great scenery. The city is clean, and
All right, seems like we lost him again. We'll try and get him back. We apologize for these technical issues. The network is a problem in Zambia, and that's why we need young leaders like Muke to come and fix it, because this is unacceptable. We cannot. This is our future presidency having network troubles. Let's see, he should be coming back.
I don't know what's happening with my network here, but it's showing me full buzz, but I don't know what's wrong.
No problem. I can hear you.
They're jealous of this conversation.
I think so. That's what I'm trying to say. I think they're
They're
really
jealous of
jealous.
this conversation.
Ah, tell you, Tashiwe me. You can go on.
Yeah, so I think to start, I think where we left from.
Yes.
Yeah, so Livingston was really nice. Because yes, I've been to Livingston, but I've never been to Livingston for such a big meeting, like UN tourism, like the stakeholders from other African countries. So for me, it was, and from as someone who created like a platform for, because young people were not part of the conversation, but I said, how do we get to engage young people in the conversation of tourism? Because you can't talk about tourism without having young people on board. Because we are the ones who are going to be on TikTok, who are the ones who are going to be like on other social media platforms, marketing our countries, talking about our countries, talking about our culture, and talking about our identity. So for you to have that conversation, we as young people to be at the table. So Livingston, yeah, it was really nice. So Radisson Blue is really nice. And really I learned a lot because I'm in this meeting with experts. I'm like, what are they even talking about? I do my research properly. Then I also start contributing to the conversations. And because I did my research to say, okay, when I'm going to be in Livingston, we're going to talk about the future of tourism, Africa and America, and how do we bridge that collaboration? For me, I was looking to how do we bring more young people on board? How do we have young people champion the conversation of sustainable tourism? So tourism, you get to experience the culture, you get to experience the food, you get to experience like the tourism, the beautiful landscapes, the Victoria Falls, the safari. So with tourism, because it's the Honorable Minister of Tourism says it's not tourism if it's not fun. So tourism is fun and it has so many opportunities for young people because you get to experience it. And for me, talking to like the Secretary General for UN Tourism, I think that was really like a key moment for me to bridge collaborations to say how do we bring more young people in the space and also meet other young innovators from other African countries who are co-creating solutions in the tourism space. That was really a game changer. And getting to contribute to the conversation, it broadened my mind to say there are more opportunities out there. Don't just limit yourself to one space. Because I feel like we as young people, we always have to want more. Because when you attend these meetings, it also shows you, oh, there are opportunities in tourism also, or there are opportunities in this space. So it's important that as you attend this meeting, you speak up because you're not just representing yourself, but you're representing the voices of other young people.
Thank you very much, and I really like that explanation. And I remember when you posted it on your social media page. I was like, what? How did he get to go to the Livingston to interface with UN leaders? So I think your explanation was was very enlightening. And so I think this segues into my next question is, what does transformative leadership mean in the African context, especially for young leaders like you?
Oh yeah, so I'll answer this question in two ways. So,
Okay.
so transformative leadership, I think I'll also tie it to ethical leadership. So one of the challenges that we face in Africa is leadership, leadership that is ethical and leadership that's transformative. So transformative leadership is leadership that's adaptable, leadership that gives back to the community. So you have to adapt with the changing times. Now we are talking about technology, we are talking about these things. So you as a leader, you need to adapt and see, how am I aligning with these trends? How am I moving forward? How am I pushing forward? So transformative leadership is something that every leader needs to have, because to
Yeah.
transform, like transforming is to like something new. Yeah, like you are molding something, you are shaping something. So
Yes.
a leader can be ethical, but a leader again cannot be transformative. So we
Wow.
know, we the Gen Zs, I know we are coming with a new culture, we are coming up with new trends, we are challenging the status quo. And you find that we call our old leaders, we call the old people like they're outdated, they are what is,
Yep.
you need to adapt. So as a leader, back there in those times, you see, okay, times are changing. Young people want their discussions to be heard like this. You need to be transformative. So, transformative leadership is something that's very important. Adaptability and aligning with your vision and your purpose. So, because with transformative leadership, it also comes to innovation. AI is coming. How
Yes.
are my people innovating? How are the people I'm leading aligning with the trends that are happening there? So a leader needs to be both ethical and both transformative. And it's really nice that you're asking me this question, because I facilitated a training with 150 young people in social entrepreneurship and innovation. And the key critical thing we tackled was leadership that's ethical and leadership that's transformative. Because the power of transforming the African continent is with us, the young people. So you as a youth listening to this, you need to challenge the status quo. Because when you are not doing anything about it, who do you expect to do it? So you have
Yes.
to do it. You have to push. Yes.
Yes. I guess my second question, I think it also ties into this question. You already answered it, but I guess we can ask this again. Or what are the most effective ways to amplify the voices of youth and children in policy making? How can we amplify their voices when we're actually in those rooms?
Okay. So how can we like amplify the voices of other young people? So what I tell my fellow young people is, when you get an opportunity to be in a room where opportunities are made, where decisions are being made, you are not just speaking for yourself, you are representing other young people who do not have the opportunity to be in that space. So for you to amplify the voices of young people, show up prepared, show up confidently, so that you challenge the status quo. And because when you speak as a youth, you are not just speaking for yourself. So this is a responsibility that we always need to hold ourselves as youth, to say, okay, I'm attending this summit, or I'm into this room. I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm representing the marginalized communities, the children, the youth in rural communities who do not have a chance to be at this decision table. Now I'm speaking on their behalf. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm carrying so many voices of other young people. So I'm not just speaking as myself as Mukelabai, but I'm speaking as a collective for other African youth. So amplifying our voices, let's learn to ask the right questions. Let's learn to engage in the discussions. Because when you are in a room as a youth, you don't just sit idly. You have to speak up. People have to hear the energy from the Gen Z. Because I know we as Gen Zs have the audacity, but we need
Yeah.
to show up responsibly. We need to be accountable to the people and communities that we serve as young leaders.
That is I like that. We should not sit idly. You're in those rooms for a reason, right? So I mean, I believe that you're in every room for a reason, that God plants you in every room for a reason. So why are you in those rooms and you're speaking, idly? I like that. You have to assume a sense of confidence, and in a sense of self, assuredness, because you are in those rooms for a particular reason. My next question is, and we talked about this earlier. We talked about how you work with both local and global organizations. How do you bridge? Because especially with international organizations, I think oftentimes Zambia is our country is considered the global south. That's now acceptable. It used to be called third world, so now it's international observers or practitioners of international relations use the term global south because it's more acceptable. How do you bridge those cultural or structural gaps, because we know it's there in collaborating with international organizations, because they, for being honest, they don't really look at African countries the same way they look at European countries or Asian
Yeah,
countries.
yeah, yeah. No. I think that's something that's really very true. Because even just, I think with you're a member of the UNMGCY, and there are so many opportunities that young people don't get to engage. Because these platforms are there for young people, but there is no, how do they start? There is no like concrete foundation to say, oh, I'm interested in this. This is how I begin. How do I access the information? Am I speaking to the right people? So we youth in the global south, we are always sidelined.
Yeah.
So for us to be part of these decision-making tables, we always have to demand our space. We always have to learn on how to take space as young people. So me being as a young professional, because I also serve as the Youth Project Management Lead, Sustainability and Advocacy for African Rivers International Organization. So with this, we focus on water security, water conservation on the continent, access to market linkages for businesses, sustainability, and all those things around that, and fighting for the rights of communities that depend on water borders. Because now, like we have, like here in Zambia, where like the Membashi
Yep.
river, Kafue, like it was polluted. So we in African rivers is something that we align with. But like when you enter into a global conversation and when you start something that I really had to, like, I think showing up on time. And because Zambia, we have this thing, the Zambian
Yeah.
time, all this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have in this person, because when someone says we are meeting at 8 hours, they really mean that you are meeting at 8 hours.
Exactly.
So for me, as I start collaborating with different people, different stakeholders, and different organizations, I'm learning these things, and my culture is shifting. The way I operate, how efficient I am, it starts shifting. My mindset expands to say, when someone says it's 8 hours, you be there at 8 hours. And everyone wants excellence and efficiency. And there's no room for excuses. When you commit to something, you have to show up. And you find that we as young people, most of the times, we love excuses. We need to learn on how to take responsibility. We have to learn on how to take accountability. Someone said people want freedom, but people don't want accountability and
Mm.
responsibility. So
Wow.
us bringing the cultural norms, because as you are working in these spaces, there are people who are speaking French, there are people who are speaking Spanish. We all have different religions. We all have different dynamics to our lives. But how do you learn on how to collaborate people? Even when you have differences with people, how do you learn on how to effective communicate? So there are so many different skills that you have to add to yourself. And engaging like really in policy as a young person and from the global south, you have to make sure that you challenge them. You deliver on what's possible. You are confident and make sure that you do your research properly so that you know what you're talking about, because when you know what you're talking about, you are going to be confident. So showing up in these rooms, we as African youth need to learn on how we are going to collaborate. Someone said it's corruption versus greed, it's not you versus me. So we have to learn on how to collaborate and create spaces for ourselves where we engage in decision makers, because I can't hold the leaders accountable alone. But when we come as a collective, Muhambi, we can do a lot as young people. We don't always receive the same privileges and the same opportunities. And you find us, we in the global south, we're always left out.
Mm.
How are we using our social media to advance our advocacy? You found me through LinkedIn. So how
Yeah.
am I using social media to share my work? I tell you, works, results follow work. Work follows results, something like that. So
Yeah.
we always have to continue. When you make the right noise, people will hear about you and people will bring you at the table. That's why I say, as young people, the Africa that we want is a collective responsibility. The Africa we want, Agenda 2063, Mohambi, it's your responsibility and my responsibility. So everyone needs to jump on board. Okay, I'm an entrepreneur. How do I get to contribute to this thing? Because when we see, I'm passionate about climate action, but because when we see, like, for example, climate action to say, it's my responsibility to protect the planet. Because when you when you wake up with responsibility, tomorrow when I'm waking up, this is what I need to do. So the future that we want is our responsibility. So engaging like on the international level, you need to do a lot of research. You need to invest in research. You need to invest to see like, how am I bringing the conversation? How am I amplifying the voices of other African youth? How do I get to contribute to the conversation in a way that's going to say, oh, this person spoke, this youth spoke. So there's a lot of foundation that you need to lay as a young people. It's not just me saying today, oh, tomorrow I'm going to a policy, because we need to invest in research as African countries so that we co-create solutions that come from we as Africans. Not that you're there attending COP, you're not aware.
Yeah.
We are not investing in data. So we have to invest in data and so many things. So it's a very broad question, but I hope I answered it the way you
Yeah,
wanted to hear it.
I think you did answer it, and you answered it in such an eloquent way. So I'm really excited to see when you become a national leader, because I think you're the type of leader that we need. So you are already our youth president. So I want to talk about Agenda 2063, and this is something that I know you work on. I've heard about it. It's about building a more, efficient and powerful Africa. What does that mean to you personally as an African? What does that agenda mean to you?
Yeah, first of all, Muhambi, because as I literally said, the African continent holds the youngest population of youth around the world. So with us being young, that means we have a responsibility and role to play. It means that our potential is empowering. So me as an African youth to say, okay, we are the majority, but how are we tapping into that potential? Are we contributing meaningfully? Are we participating meaningfully? So Agenda 63, because for me myself, first I have to ask you, Mohambi, how do you envision a better Africa for yourself? Because for me, as Mukelabai, it's an Africa. That's where Africa is a global superpower, where Africa is leading in economy, where African youth have access to job opportunities, where African youth have access to quality education, where African youth have access to health, have access to all these things that they need to thrive. So Agenda 2063, because I founded the Blueprint to Success initiative. So the Blueprint to Success initiative focuses on educating youth, children on Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want. Always, all the time, we're always complaining the West are doing this, the West have done that. But what are we doing as African youth? You can call yourself the majority, but when you have a majority that's not taking up space, when you have a majority that's not leading action, you are not doing anything. So we need to step up, we need to take up space. The future for Africa belongs in our hands as young people. And every person in the continent needs to understand that it's my responsibility to create the Zambia where every youth has access to a job opportunity. It's my responsibility to say, how are we coming up with ideas? How are we coming up with innovations as young people so that we contribute to this vision, so that we support this vision, so that when we reach 2063, I can say, oh, this is the Africa that I envisioned, where Africa is free, where Africa makes its own decisions, where African leaders support their communities, where African leaders have good political will, where our leaders are ethical. So with the Blueprint to Success initiative, the Blueprint to Success journey, to say, to achieve the Africa we want, I always keep saying on collective responsibility, to say, how are we also localizing this conversation? Do someone who's in Kaoma, does someone who is in Kalabo, does someone who is in how do they understand? How does the local community to see, how do I contribute to this vision? So we need all stakeholders on board, members of the community, religious leaders. We need everyone on board, leaving no one behind. So I'm really passionate about Gender 63 to say, because you hear people saying, oh, the West has done this, they're stealing our resources. How are we holding our leaders accountable? Oh, there's a lot of corruption in my country, there's a lot of war, and all those things that are happening on our continent. But we need to rise as the youth of Africa. The power is in our hands, the ball is in our hands. But the moment when we don't realize the potential that we hold as young people, there's nothing that's going to happen. We keep on saying this, and that. For you as Muhambi now is to see, okay, there's this Agenda 63. How do I contribute to this conversation? The African Free Trade Area. You're an entrepreneur to say, don't you want a borderless Africa? So most people don't know about this conversation. That's why it's more important for us to localize the conversation. Okay, I'm a business person here in Lusaka. There's the FCTA CTA protocol, the African Free Trade Area Trade Protocol. As an entrepreneur, how do I get to trade within borders? How do I get to trade with Kenya? How do I get to trade with Namibia? How do I get to trade with Zimbabwe? A borderless Africa, an Africa that's united. So it needs everyone on board, and everyone needs to understand the vision. Because the vision for the Africa that we want is not just my vision, it's everyone's vision. So when everyone understands that, we'll show up responsibly and we'll show up with accountability. So there's a lot around this conversation. And youths in the diaspora, let's see on how are we going to contribute to this conversation? How are we going to contribute to this vision? Because the Agenda 63 is more relatable to us than the Sustainable Development Goals. Because Africa does not need sustainability. We need more of economic transformation so that our youth have jobs, have access to healthcare facilities, have access to education, have access to data. So it's now us as young people to start co-creating these solutions, to be innovative. Let's challenge the status quo.
Yes, I really like that about how you said, number one, how we as young people in the diaspora who are also
Yes, Mohammed, hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. How we can be supportive of that vision. I think it's also important because Agenda 2063 does not just affect our brothers and sisters on the motherland, but it also affects us who are of African descent, who are of African origin. And I don't know about other people, but I can tell you that I want to see a more prosperous Africa. I want to see Africa should be a global superpower. After all, why do you think a lot of Western nations, imperial nations, come to Africa? They come for our resources because they know that we hold power. I think it's just we have to realize that power in ourselves. And I think, again, you articulated that to a T. My next question is, in your experience, what are the key barriers towards achieving sustainable development goals? What are the key barriers in your work in Zambia, and how we can overcome them? Uh-oh. I think there was some. See, again, this is what happens. I think this conversation is too rich. It's such a rich conversation that the network is upset. So we're gonna take another break, and we're gonna get our future diplomat back online. All right, we're back. Network Yashupa.
It's a very big issue in Zambia. It's a very big issue. Load shedding.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I had a
challenge.
question, but I think we can talk about this, and that's affecting us. So talk about sort of the energy crisis in Zambia, the load shedding, the network, and what are young people doing? What are you doing in your work to fix this? Because this is affecting your everyday. I was in Zambia for vacation, last year, visiting family, and this was, I can't imagine. I'm only there, for like a month, once a year. You guys are there every day. So let's talk about that since it's affecting us directly. Talk about the work that you're doing or trying to do to affect this issue.
So, firstly, load shedding affected a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of families. Because I'm a business intelligence developer, so I'm really interested in small and medium businesses. So you find that 60% of Zambian's economy is run by SMEs. That the footprint of our economy, the local businesses. So load shedding comes. When it was starting, it was really bad, but now it's a bit better because people have gotten used to it. So it really affects you in so many ways, because you find that there's a youth who relies on barbing, a young lady who realized they're completing hair, they need to blow, they need to
Yep.
put freezes, all those small businesses, restaurants. So it's hard for them to thrive now because already capital is already a challenge, but now it also, the load shedding is also affecting their productivity. And for me, as an online student, as a distanced student, I need the
Yeah.
internet and I need my devices to be checked. But then you find that, because especially last year, you find that you want to learn, you want to study, you want to do your exams, your phone is low. You stay 2 days or 3 days without power. So that affects you in so many ways because economies and families rely on that power. So the levels of poverty really went up. And as someone who advocates for the sustainable development goals, it was really bad to see how the economy, and we suffered the drought.
Yes.
So it's like people are hungry, there's load shedding, and there's poor network issue. It's a challenge. Because when you work remotely and when you for me, who's like sometimes the stakeholders I'm talking to, sometimes the project I'm leading, people are not here in Zambia, people are in other countries. But now, how do we communicate when there's poor network? You find that you need to have a meeting, your phone is low. It's a challenge. People, communities will stay 2 days, 3 days without power. So it's a really a challenge that has affected so many youth, that has affected so many businesses. Because imagine the businesses that can't afford solar. Yes, we are telling people to use renewable energy. But imagine the people that can't afford solar. Imagine that father who relies on cutting people's hair. Imagine that mother that relies on money she makes from her salon or money she makes from her restaurant. It started affecting the livelihoods of people in the rural communities. It started affecting the livelihoods of people in the compound. So you find that even issues of gender-based violence start arising because like there is no money, there is hunger, there's this issues of mental health among the children. They are supposed to study at night, but there is no electricity. So like it really affected us in so many ways. I can go on and on talking about how the load shedding has affected us, but it has really affected our economy. Is that it has really affected the productivity of businesses. It has really affected me in so many ways. I had to defer exams because I didn't prepare as much.
Yeah.
Because the hours of power the hours of power that we have power is like it can't charge my gadgets and some of us, our work, we depend on being online each and every time. So it's something that's really terrible, and it's something that we really have to look on with we as young people to say, how are we holding these systems accountable and how are we proposing sustainable alternative solutions? So for us as young people to see there's a gap and there's an opportunity now to say, how do we create renewable energy innovations? How do we create all these things, access to data? How do we use AI to monitor when can Zambia have a drought? When can Zambia do this? So there's a lot that we have to do, and now it's an opportunity because everyone now is going solar. Because
Yes.
imagine now power will only come at 22. It's like the whole day I don't have power, and I rely. Now people started having power banks, and some people were making money by now doing like charging people's phones. So yeah,
Yeah.
but it's something that has really affected us very badly.
Yeah, I'm curious, are there any sort of policy solutions that you would propose to amend this energy crisis, or any policy outcomes that you're trying to work on with your fellow peers?
Oh, well, because really, because like the load shedding, it's not the first time that Zambia is
Yeah.
having an energy crisis.
Yeah.
These conversations have been there back, 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 back. But the problem that we have people who don't want to invest in planning and in research. Do we have
Mhm.
the right data? Do we have the right statistics? So it's something that we really have to say at the root cause. Because yeah, the Kariba Dam is there. There are issues of climate action. So we really need to act. We really need to act proactively. We don't just have to sit and wait to say, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's doing this. Climate action is affecting everybody. And now the impacts are very severe because people are starting to understand, oh, this is the climate change that people are talking about. Oh, it has
Yes.
brought drought, it has brought load shedding, the businesses are not surviving. Then now people start seeing it. It's our responsibility. What are we going to do about it? So yeah, people can blame the government. So there's a lot of structure that needs to be done.
Yeah.
ZESCO, and we need to like invest in other alternative renewable sources. We need to start using clean energy. We are cutting a lot of trees, which is causing drought. So the main issue is drought which is being caused by climate change. So how are we tackling the issue of climate change? So it's about educating people in the communities. It's about bringing everybody on board that we have a responsibility and role to play to protect our environment and to protect our planet. And also for our government to say, how do we bring more investments in the energy sector? Because I can tell you, like, I'm from Western Province. There is like a forest there in Sioma. Why can't you make like a hydro power plant that can sustain the entire Western Province? Because they have the water there, they have the energy there. And how are we putting the energy of our engineers at work? So you find that people will come up with these ideas, but their ideas are not adopted. So there's a lot of collaboration that needs to be on board. And me, as a youth, for me, it's just the conversation of climate action.
Yeah.
Because what caused load shedding is the drought. And this conversation is going to continue each and every time. So for me, how am I educating the communities? How am I educating the school-going pupils? As a social innovator, and to say, how am I promoting innovation in the renewable energy space? How do we create opportunities and synergies with stakeholders that support young innovators to say, okay, young people are coming up with these ideas, but how are we going to support them? So as a young leader, for me, it's like, how do I also help create an enabling environment that will also help other young people's innovation thrive? So I organize a few events and a few initiatives with different stakeholders and partners to say, how do we promote the innovation culture? And we see people coming with ideas. Oh, there's now green charcoal, people recycling plastics to create. I know one lady who was doing like a project where they're recycling plastics to make green fuel that can drive cars, like fuel that can drive cars
Wow.
through the plastics that are affecting the environment. That's also energy. How are we investing? Like, because now it's like people are now opening their minds to say, we don't just need to rely on water. We can rely on other attainable sources, like sustainable sources of like energy. So we as young people, it's also an opportunity for business people. For young people who want to get into business, they say, okay, I can also venture into this space. But we need the right environment, the right policies. We need an enabling environment that will allow us to thrive and for these ideas to thrive.
Amazing, amazing stuff. So I got maybe this one might be a fun question, but can you describe a project or a
Okay.
partnership? Can you describe a project or a partnership that exemplifies the power of collaboration for social impact? So any project that you've had that exemplifies the power of strategic collaboration for social impact.
Okay, so many, but I think my favorite is like the social entrepreneurship and innovation training. So our goal is to train so many young leaders to champion the sustainable goals, for young people to co-create sustainable solutions. Like as I said earlier, it's more like enabling young people to come up with solutions to the problems that are out there. Because most businesses that thrive are businesses that offer solutions. So with this project, it's like you need so many stakeholders on board. So young people are coming up with the innovation. So with that training is like, how do we connect them to the ecosystem where the funds are being given so that they also engage in the policy? You find that people are coming up with different ideas, different innovations, but they say, okay, they're coming up with these innovations. We need government to back and help in policy making. We need funders, we need donors to come on board to see how are we going to help these young people? How are we going to help these ideas? How do we bring also the community on board to say, you can also start co-creating your own solutions. You don't just have to wait for employment from government, but you can start your journey from there. Hope that
Amazing,
answers your
amazing.
question.
Yes, it does. So I have a question about sort of climate action. Um, what bold actions do you, and I think you already talked about it, but what bold actions do you believe are urgently needed to address climate changes in Zambia?
I think we always talk about policy, but action is something that's really needed because we come up with these great policies. It's not that our policies are bad, but we
Mm.
need action. We need to stick to our words. Climate action is here. What strategies are we going to employ to say, how do we keep this factor? And one thing, people don't know what climate action is. People don't
Yeah.
know what climate change is. So how are we localizing the conversation to the local language to say that every person needs to learn about it? Like plastic pollution is an issue here in Lusaka to say, how are we going to educate people? Because you know, with climate change is like the people, we don't pollute more, but we are the ones who are most impacted. See the floods, how they impact. If you have been in Lusaka here during rain season, see how the floods affects the livelihoods of people. Children don't have to go to school because there is water, like it's flooded. So there are so many things that we really have to do. We always talk about policy, but what's needed is for us to take action.
Mm.
I'll
Mm.
keep
That
on
is such.
emphasizing action, and invest in the ideas of young people. So we need you, our leaders, to empower us, enable us, and also trust us.
That is such a good question. I like what you said also about, articulating it to the local space. I think because oftentimes, climate change, that can be, if you go to, some, villages or communities, rural communities where, there is a cultural barrier, an educational barrier, a language barrier. How do you, in your experience, what roles do sort of indigenous or local knowledge, what roles do they play in shaping effective climate strategies?
Because you know, like for example, like where I come from, because you know, like with climate action, with the drought and everything that happened, they have their sustainable. They use indigenous knowledge to say, how do we farm sustainably? So you find
Mm,
that they are farming, they plant something. For example, they're planting maize. They also plant another crop, and there's this plant that again they'll plant as manure. They'll mulch it. So like you find that they are using their knowledge to increase their yields, but all the time it's not us using fertilizer, us using this. So with their knowledge, we saw that they're already coming up with their own ideas. Okay, we have a drought issue. How do we farm during drought? If I'm planting beans, let me also plant maize to say, if I lose one, I still have the other one. Because I remember because I was part of the launch of the CFAS project to say they're using, with the support of like the European Union, they're using the knowledge of farmers from their communities to say this is how we farm. This is how we sustain our youths. So let's adopt this knowledge for us as people engaged in the space to see how do we amplify their innovation that's there? How do we modify their idea to make it better, to make it scalable? So we need to include indigenous knowledge in co-creating these solutions. And also an
mm.
issue of digital inclusion. How do we also, because yeah, digital inclusion is more about connectivity, but it needs to need access to opportunity to the marginalized groups, access to opportunity for the youth in those rural communities, so that we also bring their ideas on board. Even as we are making these decisions, let them also be at the table. For me, Lusaka, climate change affects me in a different way, but someone in a rural village, they're going to have a different experience. But now when we are having a meeting, how do we bring them on board to the conversation to say, this is how it's going to affect us? But we can really use indigenous knowledge because those people are really smart and those ideas have worked for them. Because you find that a child is sick, you find here, they'll give you Panadol, you drink a medicine, but there they will use indigenous
Yeah. Yeah.
roots and the child will get better. So how do you just enhance that there? And you find that these big brands will come and just like the hibiscus, they'll just come and brand it and start selling it on the retail market. But that's indigenous knowledge. So we need to support them and bring them on board, not just as participants to receive these ideas, but as key people in the leadership and the solutions.
You talked about technology and innovation, and I want you to answer sort of this question. We know that innovation, technology. We live in a digitalized world. We live in a globalized economy. So and I think because we live in a digital world, I think a lot of the problems that we face, especially on the global level, can be traced to the fact that we live in a digitalized world, and change is very hard for rapid change, especially since the rise of globalization, and the world is changing in so many ways. And I think that can oftentimes when the world is changing, we as people, it's human nature for us to become a little bit more fearful and a little bit more closed. So what
Yeah.
role in your work does technology and innovation play in accelerating sustainable development in Zambia?
Oh yeah, oh, that's a really Good question. So really, technology really plays a very big role. Because now you see the problem, because we as African youth, we don't need to be adopters of innovation, but we need to also be innovative.
Hmm.
We have the rise of AI technology that's there. It's not that we need to like create our own. We need to start from the scratch. But how do we leverage on the already existing technology? Because we don't have the resources, we don't have the equipment. But to say there's this technology and innovations that are there. How do we leverage on them? Because really, see how like social media is amplifying advocacy now. See how it's making easy for me and you to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So we really need to invest in data, and young people need to tap into this potential to say, how are we innovating solutions? How do we contribute to like the main conversation and the future of Zambia? We as young people, because when you see AI, you as a young people will say, how can I learn about AI? Because that's something that's going to make you stand out from the rest. Because when we as young people just sit reluctantly, when we hear things like AI, data analytics, how are we investing ourselves into those skills? Get an AI certificate so that you contribute to the revolution. Because it's we that used to study innovating. Innovation is more than just dancing on TikTok, using your phone to do something. It's about us creating solutions to the challenges that we face. We have a data issue. How are we going to invest in data? We need solutions by Zambians, by we Zambian youth, by we the Zambian populations. We need to drive our own solutions. And technology can be a game changer to how business is done, to how all these things are done. And the African Free Trade Area Protocol, for us to tap into that potential, we need digitization. How are we digitizing our processes? So there is a lot of things, and it's a really big game changer to our country. But we just need to tap into the potential when it's too early. It starts by us young people investing in the skills that are needed in the technology era. We need to invest in that, because you find that there's someone who was telling me to say you find that they mine these resources, especially in the Congo, where they mine these resources that contribute to a lot of the technical manufacture of AI technologies. But we as African, we're still lagging behind in the revolution of the technologies. So we need to put our youths at work. We need to create more opportunities for these youths. We need to create enabling platforms for them. Because someone can come up with an innovation, but for them to get the innovation supported, it's a challenge. So we need to create a whole ecosystem that supports young people, that supports everyone. So technology is a game changer. Digitization, investing in data, investing in artificial intelligence, we need to tap into that potential. I want Zambia to be a leading hub in technology in Southern Africa. That's my vision. That's what I want to see.
Wow, so powerful. As first of all, as we begin to wind the conversation down, first let me thank you. I know you are a very busy young person, so I want to thank you for making time out of your schedule to conversate with me. Obviously, the network is an issue, but we won't blame that on you. So I think that's more for our Zambian leaders. So
We won't blame it.
we'll have to tell Pastor Nathan to talk to one of these people that they're in trouble. But as for one of my final questions,
Yeah, their intro.
I know first my first question is for one of my final questions is what does a sustainable and inclusive Zambia or Africa look like to you in 20 years?
Oh, okay. A sustainable Zambia looks where young people have access to opportunities, where we beat climate change, where our environment is sustainable, where people are protecting the planet, where people are showing up responsibly to the people that they serve. So Zambia in 20 years, a Zambia where every youth has access to an opportunity, has access to a job, has access to good healthcare facilities, and where we bring the marginalized communities, people with disabilities, everyone on board to the conversation, where freedom of expression is something that every youth gets to like have. And yeah, I think just to riding on that thought again, a sustainable Zambia is a proper Zambia. Economically, democratically, we are developing in that way. A future where every child is heard, a future where every youth is heard, where every youth is empowered, where every youth is enabled, and where every youth is trusted.
That's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So my second question is, this one might be a little difficult, so I don't know. But looking
Yeah,
ahead, what legacy do you hope to leave as a leader for our generation, Gen Z, and the next generation? So what do you want your legacy to be as a leader? How do you want people to remember you?
I think I want people to remember me as a catalyst for bold action. Because for
Mm,
me, I really love helping people. The more people that you help, that's success. The more children that you empower with knowledge to start creating their own solutions, the more youth that I help give a platform. So I want people to remember me as a catalyst for bold action. Someone who challenged the status quo, someone who defied solutions, someone who showed up boldly, someone who showed up with confidence. So I want people to remember me as a catalyst for bold action in these words. So catalyst for bold action.
Catalyst for bold action. I like that. So this is a bonus question. So what are your career goals? I think we already know that you want to be a diplomat, but where is your career and service taking you?
Yeah, so talking about my career, I think for me, really, it's about, I think my goal is to create wealth and have money. Because I know a lot of people despise when someone says, I love money. You can't despise something that you want to have. So for me, really, is to be financially stable. And where I see my career, because you see, like I'm doing information technology and I'm also doing my pre-MBA now. And now there's this career that I'm busy bridging into diplomacy. But for me, it's like, how am I utilizing my skills to shape the career? For me, I want to create my own opportunities and work for myself. So all the time is about offering solutions to different industries, to different stakeholders. So I see myself as the next Bill Gates in future.
I like that. The next Bill Gates. There you guys. You heard it first here on ZBTR TV. We have the next Zambian Bill Gates live with us today. I want to thank you, my brother Muke. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I think, as I said before, to conversate with us. I think this is what this show is all about. This monthly segment that we have is about conversating with other young leaders. As we said, that age is not a barrier um, toward toward success. And you, my brother, are doing some amazing work. So tell our viewers where they can find you, where they can sort of follow your work.
Oh yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at that corporate diplomat, also Mukelabai Mukelabai Junior, and you can follow me on LinkedIn at Mukelabai Mukelabai Junior. That's where you can see most of my works, and like expect a lot of. I think starting next week, because I will be in Livingstone at the International Consultation of Child Helplines with UNICEF of Zambia. So there's a lot that you're going to see from that. So you'll be seeing a lot of content. Follow me on LinkedIn, Mukelabai Mukelabai Junior.
There you go. You heard it from our future diplomat. Thank you so much, my brother, for joining us. Thank you so much. This was an
Thank you so
excellent
much, Mohambi, for
conversation.
having me. It's a really great pleasure.
Thank you so much, my
Thank
guy.
you.
This was
Good
an
day.
excellent conversation. Well, there you heard it. You have our future diplomat. You have an engaging young person, an engaging young leader, and I think that this is what this show is about. And I'm very grateful again for Pastor Nathan for giving me this opportunity. I hope that you are inspired by our conversation, and I hope for young people who are watching. Again, if you want to get involved, this is a one way for you to platform your work, and we would love to have you on. I want to thank all of our viewers for taking time out of your Saturday morning, wherever you're watching us. Saturday morning, if you're in the U.S., Saturday afternoon, if you're back home in Zambia, for taking time out of your busy schedule to watch and to listen to this interview. So I'll see you again next month for our next edition. And I wish you all a very productive weekend and a very blessed month of June. Thank you so much, everybody.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.